So how are budget components, how is budget data stored in Uffective? So what is budget data? I'm again here in this demo environment, and these are the budget components we have in Uffective in this demo environment. So cost type 1, fiscal year, planned, approved, and actual. How does that work in our data model? So let's pick up our data model over here. I need this one. And this is stored in the table item attribute budget. So item attribute budget is the table that contains this data. In this item attribute budget, we of course have an item ID. We need to know that we are in this example project that I just shown you. Then you need to know the combination of budget type cross bucket. So what is meant with budget type cross bucket? Budget type are things like, for example, CapEx and OpEx. Those are budget types we have. The bucket is normally a kind of department. So it could be your complete organization. It could be a bucket, or within that you could have IT or marketing or sales as departments, or within IT you could have development, operation, testing, and so on. Those are normally buckets. So we define upfront which combinations are allowed. So the IT development department is allowed to have CapEx and OpEx, for example. That's a budget type cross bucket that is available for this organization. Then we need to know a fiscal year. So a fiscal year could be a year as such, but it can also be a half a year, a quarter, or a month, depending on the requirements, how you would like to plan your budget. Then you go for a gate. This could be a gate like for the feasibility study, we need 10,000 euros OpEx, and for the implementation we need 100,000 euros CapEx. So that gate allows you to say this is budget needed for the feasibility study and this is budget needed for the implementation. Finally, we've got this budget status enum, and this budget status enum is normally about planned or approved or actual or an accrual, a commitment. Also forecasts can be different budget status enums. So how does this table look like? You can see it over here. So this is the structure of it. It has a unique ID. And then you find the item ID in there. You find the gate, the budget type cross bucket, the fiscal year ID, and the budget status enum in there. So those are the things I just explained. There, of course, is a value, being those 10,000 or 100,000 in my example. There is a change date, like there always is in our database, and we of course store the user who has changed it. That's for the log, so that we can always see why it changed, who made the change. In this table also there is this is last value. That means that if you first plan 10,000 and say, okay, 10,000 is too much, we only need 8,000. We have two rows then in the database, in this table, one with 10,000. That's not the last value, and a new row with almost the exact same data on item ID, gate ID, budget ID. It's all the same, but then a different value, and that would be the last value. So that one then has an is last value is true. If we look at this example, so what you see over here is of course the item ID. The budget type cross bucket can be normally inserted here. In this case, there was only one of them, being the budget type. The bucket is not in there. Why? That is because there's only one bucket configured in this environment. So if there is only one, you don't have to choose for it. The same goes for gate. You don't see a gate over here. So if you have a customer saying, well, I only need budget for the project as such, then you don't need to ask them every time, for what do you need the budget? So it's for the project as such. Then let me have a look at the next one. So you see fiscal year over here, you see a combination. So costs are planned for a complete year, but also for a month, the 6 months of the year 21. The gate ID you don't find in here because there's only one. And in this case, there are 3 budget status enums defined, being the planned budget status enum, the approved, and the actual. Of course, you could define more than just these 3. There's an important difference between planned and approved because those are special budget status enums. You can use the workflow to migrate or to approve a planned budget into an approved budget. So that's why those 2 are special. The workflow is focused on moving a planned into an approved, of course, giving the defined workflow templates you've set up. So that's the way how item attribute budget, that table works, and how we store in a database our budget data. Thanks.